Hey, I read a story in the news the other day that a woman divorced her husband of 15 years after he had penis enlargement surgery. And when they asked her why she left him, she said, I just can't take it any longer. Oh my. Five, four, three. CGP Video Pictures presents Trek Tonight, Season 3. This week, Lower Decks. With your hosts, Christopher Pitcher, Leo Byrne-Janicek, and Keith Jacobson. Tonight's review, Parth Ferengi'S Heart Place. And now live from New York City, Wilmington, Delaware, and Everett, Washington, it's Trek Tonight.
Really?
She can't take it any longer.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I saw you facepalm. Hey, folks, welcome to Trek Tonight. Hopefully we will have a better technical night tonight than we did last week. But at any rate, so we've got fingers crossed. At any rate, how you guys doing?
Not bad. The weather it's warm again in New York. It's like early summer weather. I was out today, just like, I didn't need a jacket or a hoodie or anything, t-shirt. It was sunny and beautiful. Although I believe starting tomorrow, the weekend is going to be rather wet. Apparently, the weather gods hate the working man. So
yeah,
make
I
of that
heard
what you will.
that's out in Texas and working its way here. So, yeah, that's what I heard too. But I actually heard it described exactly that way down here in Delaware as well. That it was like early summer. So yeah.
Is it what's it like out up in the upper left-hand side of the country?
Yeah.
Well, it was rainy for the last few days. Shocker. And today the sun came peeking out. And I'm discovering, and I've seen this over the years a little bit, but it's like there's something different going on this year. I keep, after a day or so after we've had rain, I keep getting little piles of dirt just appearing in my front yard. I'm thinking, at first I thought, do I got moles or something like that? And I've started digging around in there, and I can't find any kind of hole in there. I'm not finding any kind of insects or anything. My front yard is mostly moss as opposed to grass.
Okay.
And I'm just wondering, is the ground saturated and it's just dirt bubbling up because it's got rocks? But by the way, are great rocks for coming up too. I mean, if I wanted to throw rocks at somebody, these are the perfect size rocks for getting
the holidays are coming up, so
that's true. Yeah.
So,
or you'll have all the treats Charlie Brown could ask for.
That's,
yes.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure. I'm going to have to start asking people around here what these piles of dirt that mysteriously appear in my yard are.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm sure you can find somebody who can come up with a conspiracy theory about it.
I'm sure there are. I'm sure they are. Yes.
Yeah.
It does feel like it's like the cold open for a Star Trek episode.
Yeah,
and it'll be a time travel one, Keith, because it's set in the early 21st century.
Right.
Damn.
So that's on you.
Damn it! Come on!
I see what you did there, Leo. That's good.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought we had a really good episode of Lower Decks.
Me too.
I quite enjoyed it. I have a mixed feeling about the Ferengi because they are sometimes very cartoon. Their first appearance, they were like these snaggletooth, perverts, and robber barons, as they were described.
And they were very small. They really picked very small actors to play.
I mean, they generally do. They generally cast smaller actors to play.
Yeah.
But Deep Space Nine, we actually got to see I would say, a real sort of they're filling in the gaps
Yes.
in
Yeah.
Ferengi knowledge, with one full time cast member being a Ferengi and another reoccurring, Quark and Rom.
Right.
But it's sort of it's definitely it's a satire on sort of capitalist, a capitalist mindset to the nth level.
Right.
So, the fact that you have to pay to use the bathroom and, probably pay to flush and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's, a gift comes with a bill, which of course makes it not a gift, at least by human standards.
Yes.
But,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'm not sure if Keith saw it, but they even snuck an ad in at the beginning of our program.
yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, Latin M talks.
Yeah. Let's see here. If I can.
Sluggo Cola.
Yeah, it was a Sluggo Cola ad. See if I can go back here and
This will actually happen.
what's going on? Oh, there we go. I'm gonna get it in the right spot.
Sluggo
There we
Cola.
go. Okay. Bigger loads. Bigger
Went by
loads.
very fast, but if you freeze your feed,
Video Pictures presents. Here we go. Trek Tonight. See. There you go, Keith.
bigger
Get
lobes.
bigger
Right.
lobes with.
I missed
Sluggo
that.
Cola.
I missed that.
Yeah, well, I saw you. I noticed you were looking there, but that's okay. Anyway.
Yeah. The
This episode was interesting, as I mentioned before in the green room. 4 separate storylines, which is
Yes.
a real juggling act. Some were a little deeper than others. Boimler's was fairly short, but still very, very funny.
Yeah.
So do you want to break them down by
Yeah,
each?
Sure. Let's just in a nutshell. What are they? You've got.
They're
Yeah.
the captain and Admiral Vassi signing the Ferengi who want to join the Federation. They're applying to become a member of the Federation,
Right.
which
That's
it
one.
sounds like a gag. That's number one. But this is going to be a real canon changer, although we know that in Discovery in the 32nd century, the Ferengi are part of the Federation.
Right.
You
Right.
see Ferengi in Federation business.
Right.
Second one was Mariner meeting up with what's his name? Let me check my notes. Quimp,
Right.
her Ferengi pal, who we saw in the very second episode of Lower Decks. She paid him to assault them, and her and Boimler, to give Boimler a little bit of confidence.
Right.
And he's become much more sort of prosperous in the intervening time. There was Tendi and Rutherford, who have to pose as a married couple because they're all being sent down to do it's sort of like almost like a travel survey of planets. The Federation.
Yeah, it's like you have to fill in the travel log.
The travel log.
Yeah.
And it's like even Mariner was like, I thought that was a myth.
Yeah.
They get this, and it's a plum assignment where you get to go to bars. She's like, check out bars, pubs, taverns, restaurants, bars, more pubs. And he's like, well, there's also like restaurant. There's also like,
museums.
And so, but it's mostly bars.
But it's mostly bars. Yeah.
And the last one is Boimler, who says, well, how many places do I have to go to? He says, well, 4 or 5 is about, what they want. He says, I'm going to do all of it. He says, I'm going to plan it out so well. I'm going to do it all, and I'm going to enjoy none of it.
Yeah, right. I think he said he was going to go to 40 places.
Yeah.
I think it was 40. Yeah.
Yeah. And he goes, I'm Ransom asks, does he drink a lot of coffee? And they're like, oh yeah.
yeah, I like that. I like that bit.
So those are the 4 storylines. So
and it is interesting, Leo, because I didn't really think of it that way till you mentioned it in the green room. But you're right; they were 4 distinct little, like you said, some smaller than the others. But
and that is a real juggling act because even though I would say Boimler's is probably the shortest, although like he has a lot of great gags in his.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But they kept everything moving along. It never, I never felt like, they kind of glossed over that.
Right.
It all felt very much all the storylines I found very satisfying.
I
don't know
like
about you guys.
when you see him because he ends up separated.
Yeah,
What? All right, I'll just mention this and then I have a question. He gets into his room, he
yeah,
takes out his pad, and he ticks off the first item on his itinerary, which is put bags in room.
yes.
Yeah, which I thought was
He's,
great. But why did they have to pose as a married couple? I'm trying to remember now.
I guess they do that because on a lot of, I guess it's not uncommon on Federation ships to have married couples,
I
and
see.
maybe they want to be like, oh, if you're a couple, you can go here. This is a nice romantic restaurant. They don't explain it, but that's my.
But I guess so that there would be that perspective in the travelog.
Yeah, and they signed them because they had a great rapport, and apparently, according to Ransom, the Ceritos is the horniest and least, the most commitment averse starship in the fleet.
Right.
And there are no married couples on board.
You put a finger up. What did you have, Keith?
Well, I was going to say that's. I suppose that is one reason why they could have done it, and I don't know, call me crazy.
Yeah.
They wanted to tell jokes with Mariner and Rutherford pretending to be married, and that was their excuse for doing that.
Right.
Yeah, and at first they're just laughing and joking about it, and then suddenly they're like, "Oh, feels too real." And there's been a lot of speculation about their, because they're so close and they have such a great chemistry, and they obviously care very deeply for each other. So, but neither one of them has ever taken that step.
I loved that. Let's see. Well, yeah, here they are. But I I love the fact that even though her skin is green, she blushed pink.
Yes.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder if I wonder if they tried to make her blush like a darker green.
Right.
And it didn't read.
Yeah.
But
it might have been. Yeah.
It might have been. That is just wild speculation on my part.
Was there some background to the idea that Ferengi'S was a rainy place?
Yeah, every time we've seen it, like in DS9,
okay,
it was always raining. Whenever Quark and Rom would go back to Ferengi'S,
right,
it was always raining.
Okay,
yeah, it was always sort of this gloomy, rainy, swampy planet.
Well, kind of Blade Runner-y in a way when you see
a little Blade Runner, sort of like if Vegas was in the Everglades.
Right.
But
Scott Taylor is here again.
Hey, Scott Taylor.
Scott, thank you for the thumbs up. It's always good to see you here.
I don't. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. No.
I don't want to make it sound like I did not enjoy this particular story that we had here. The one with Rutherford and Tendi pretending to be married.
Right.
I did enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. It was, however, my least favorite of the stories we saw. Okay. But less because this wasn't well done, because it was well done.
Right.
But more because I don't want to see them become an item. I like the fact that they are a platonic friends. And it seems like whenever you've got platonic friends in any kind of TV show or Hollywood show, at some point they have a romance.
Well, you can't disagree with that, because that the will they won't they, which is the show on Ferengi'S, which is sort of an office end up. Boimler's storyline is he gets stuck in his hotel room watching Ferengi TV, and he sees a commercial. It's like, for Sluggo Cola, and this guy is like being bullied, and he drinks some Sluggo Cola, and this girl who's being manhandled by this other Ferengi, she kicks him into like a lake. And says, and they say this will actually happen when you drink Sluggo Cola.
Yeah.
And he's like,
well, the other guy, the lobes get bigger.
Yeah, your lobes get bigger, and they do. And he's like, they just lie to you? They could just lie? That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And then he gets caught up, and it was let me check my notes. The title of the show he watched, which was Pog and Dar, Cop Landlords.
Now, did you notice, because it had a very 80s look to it?
Yes.
Did you notice that the font, and I used it for the Sluggo Cola, the font was a Battlestar Galactica font?
I did not notice that.
From the original show.
Interesting.
The TOS Battlestar Galactica, yeah.
And
That was really funny. It
I
had to be done on purpose. 'Cause,
as funny as the idea of landlord cops is, or cop landlords, it's all just weirdly a little too close to the way the world is. Um, it's just up to the line, not to go over. But I'm like, you really, it's a very pointed social commentary.
yeah,
But in the so that he just gets obsessed. We can actually talk about his first because it's sort of the shortest.
yeah. But I just
Yeah.
wanted to jump in with Craig's comment because Craig Littman's here, and he says, "I think that Orions have red blood cells like humans, so she would blush red even with green skin."
I bow to your expertise in science.
I have never. I know that we've talked about Vulcans,
Yeah.
and they were copper based, and that's where
Yeah.
the green comes from, and the green blood comes from. But they've never said that about
No.
Orions, so you could very well be right, Craig.
Sounds perfectly crime.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So let's talk about Boimler because it is the shortest one, and basically he gets caught up in just glued to staying in his hotel room and watching TV.
Yeah, and eating like these green potato chips.
Yeah. And what I loved about that was it couldn't have been further from what he intended to do.
Yes.
It was like, yeah, his whole plan just got shot because he got sucked into Ferengi television.
I think there may be a little Boimler in all of us because I'll be honest, sometimes I'm flipping around and I'll be like, oh, Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And I'll just, whatever point in the movie is, I'll just start watching it. Like,
right.
They could be like at the last act, and I'll be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Rather than watch something completely new, I will, you get sucked in, you'd be like, oh, they're doing an Odd Couple marathon on New Year's Day, which they do here in New York on a local station. And, I don't stay up the whole 24 hours.
Right,
but I'll watch a bunch, and then I'll wake up in the morning and I'll watch some more.
I think one of my favorite lines he had was when he said, oh, it's like a Hollow novel, but cheesier.
I think he said sleazier.
Oh, sleazier. That's it. That's sleazier. Yeah. And I thought
just as a little Easter egg, the landlord cops come in and they're busting this guy. He says, that your pet is 25 kilograms and you're only rated for 20 kilograms. He says, well, he's gained weight since I got him. It was the dog from The Enemy Within. The one
I saw that. Yes.
He had the horn and the antennas.
Yeah.
Just a Pekingese they sort of gussied up back in the late 60s. But we've never seen that dog again. I was glad to see that dog return.
Well, and while you're doing an Easter egg, I'm going to jump because I think. What do you think? You think Mariner's next?
Yeah, let's do Mariner. So
okay.
he stays there.
Wait, hang on one second. Sure. I just want to jump in to say that one of the drinks she ordered was a Dagger of the Mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah.
Which I thought was
I missed that one.
I'm sure the recipe for that is going to pop up online fairly soon.
Oh, I hope so. I really do. Okay, so let's talk Mariner.
Yes.
So this is, as Keith said earlier in the day today in our private chat, and I want to get into your thoughts on this, Keith, because you had something to say about it and alluded to it this morning. But her plot was very much a continuation of her character development.
Yes, it was.
And so basically what she was grappling with in her storyline was she's pissed off that she's been promoted and she can't be angry about it because Ransom is just being really great about it and supportive. So she can't find something to get all bent out of shape about it, and she doesn't know what to do with herself.
Right. So you do what anybody would do. You go somewhere and start picking fights.
Right.
Get drunk and picking fights.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, who hasn't done that?
And she really, and drinking way too much. Yeah. She really expects her buddy, her Ferengi buddy, to join in on the whole thing, and clearly he's changed.
Yeah.
Right.
In his attitudes, and really did not want to get drunk and have huge bar fights and stuff. So,
well, even when they meet at this cafe or restaurant. He says, "Oh, maybe we get a little brunch?" But and she's like, "I want 3 shots, 2 shots, and a Dagger of the Mind."
Yeah.
He said, "Well, it's 10 a.m." She's like, "It's 10 a.m."
Yeah.
I guess it's hard to tell them because it's always cloudy and rainy.
Yeah.
So they make that 3 shots.
And I love that this waiter just walks by and somehow she all of a sudden has a drink.
Yeah.
And he's like, how did you even get that? You know?
So does it really matter? She throws it back and like, throws it, and you just go, hey.
Yeah. So I don't know. Do you want to wait, Keith, to talk about your?
Well, I mean, we can
Character
talk about it here
development
because
stuff
this, I've already said it was my least favorite arc, but for a completely because it was good, or
Right.
But this was one of my two favorites on here,
Okay.
Mariner and the captain,
Right.
especially the captain. But again, I love the character growth that we're going on here. Mariner is getting all these fights, but I think they're doing a really good job of showing that she's not really enjoying it. I mean,
Right.
yeah, she's getting into all these fights, and it's supposed to be great, and she keeps trying to pretend she's having fun, but she's
Right.
not really having fun. And
It's true. Her buddy gets a drink knocked on him by a Ferengi biker, who is the most polite person we've met on Ferengi.
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh, I'm terribly sorry." He's, "Oh, it's no problem." And they're both like really cool. She's like, "What are you going to spill a drink on my friend?" But I like, says, "Well, I'm just trying to have a quiet evening with my other biker gang." And they're all like super jacked and taller than the other Ferengi.
Yeah.
And they're all wearing like vests with no shirts, But she's got that foam dome that looks like a Ferengi head,
I love that.
And she just starts throwing punches, and her friend gets punched, who's just being like, maybe we should. He's like trying to calm things down. He gets a punch to the eye, and he said, how much it cost me to bribe everybody to get you out of there without ruining the negotiations, which we'll address later.
Yeah.
And they're at a war memorial for the Dominion, which is about profits lost.
yes. Does it get more Ferengi than that?
No, that is maybe the most
not.
Ferengi.
It does not. Yeah.
One of the things I noticed in watching this, one of the things they used to say about the Ferengis, women weren't allowed to wear clothes,
Right.
which is something that I don't think is aged that well.
It's not just that. It became really impractical anytime you were going to tell a Ferengi story.
Yeah.
Either all your characters had to be men, or they had to be naked, and they couldn't be naked on television. So
yeah, but all the you got to see like if there was a restaurant. Sorry, that was my phone making.
Oh, okay. I was like, what the hell's that? There's some wisecracker in the background,
But there's one point. There's a scene in a restaurant, and there was a couple sitting at a table, and one of them is clearly wearing it. Seems to be female.
Right.
It's weird because it's not like Ferengi women have hair. They're both men and women are both bald,
Right.
but seem to be dressed in a feminine manner. And we never saw any female nudity in
Right.
it. But that is, I think, due to Rom, who is now the Grand Nagus.
Yes.
And we'll get into that a little bit later.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in the episode that dealt with the Grand Nagus,
Yes.
there was a Grand Nagus episode where he has a wife who gets very involved in politics.
That was Quark and Rom's mother, Moogie,
Right.
who was played by the great Andrea Martin
Yes.
from SCTV,
Yeah.
who is a gem. Anything she does.
Yeah.
But they gave her when she would be nude, because Rom was all uncomfortable because she was wearing clothes in the house, and she took her robe off. But she had this latex sort of wrinkly suit on. She was that better? He's like, yeah.
But doesn't she end up lobbying for women to be able to wear clothes?
Yes.
Probably.
Yeah.
I believe you're right.
Yeah, that was like one of the stories that they had on Deep Space Nine was Quark had to go back because Moogie was in trouble because she's doing business and wearing clothes. I mean, God,
Right.
the horror.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. I would have liked to have seen a cameo by Moogie, but honestly, this episode was so jam packed.
Yeah.
Oh my
yeah,
God.
I don't
we
see
did
where
not
they could have
need
put
that.
it
This
in.
was-
Yeah, I don't know where you would have fit it, but yeah.
No, but I'm disappointed because I love Andrea Martin, but honestly, there was so much going on.
Yeah.
You couldn't have fit it in.
Yeah.
But Mariner's friend is basically, listen, you're all angry, but you've got nothing to be angry about. She's like I'm just agent of chaos. I'm right on the edge, all this stuff. And he's like, like what are you rebelling against? You don't have anything to rebel against. You've got a supportive environment.
Right.
So maybe got to grow up and think about what you want to do.
Yeah.
And she has to admit that he's right.
Yeah.
And he says,
Yeah.
"Listen, I don't want you to get killed. You'll never pay me back that way." So that little Ferengi, little cherry on the top of that story.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun.
It was.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
All right. So Keith, why don't you talk to us about the captain and the admiral, because I know you have something to say about it.
Yeah, I do, because I feel like Captain Freeman this season, up until last episode, when she got to be a hero with the Betazoids who had taken over the ship.
Right.
So I have complimented this show in the past on it being about them not playing the upper decks, for lack of a better phrase, as morons.
Right.
Ransom is shown to be, a supportive officer. Shax is also shown to be a supportive officer.
Right.
Pretty much, even Billups, he might be a little bit not paying attention very well. Yeah, it might be a little odd, but he's supportive of it. Oh yeah, Rutherford. Yeah, okay, yeah. Have your extra pip. Have your extra half pip. So fine. Except for Freeman, this whole season, Freeman has been kind of played as up until last episode, she's been kind of played as a doofus. But last episode, she got to be a hero and participated in the saving of the Ceritos.
Right.
And this episode, she's the one she's giving the Admiral all sort of advice on how to handle the Ferengi. And the Admiral is going, no, dear, you just sit over there and watch like you've been ordered to, and you'll let the Admiral take care of it, because that's why I've got the box around my pips.
Yeah, he said this is gonna be the fastest alliance ever, because their ships being destroyed, their ships are going missing. So they're desperate for Federation resources, and they have all that really unappealing Ferengi food put out, including like what looks like a cheese board on a board that looked a little bit like a starship, which I thought was
like the D.
I think it looked like the D.
Yeah.
I think it was,
and he's very like and they brought in, and we had the original voices. I want to make sure I'm getting the names right. Max Grodnichik is Grand Negus Ram, and Lita is voiced by Chase Masterson.
Yeah,
and they even had apparently the name of there's this silent alien who is the Grand Negus Neck, who was or Zek in the previous one.
Right.
The Hyperion was this sort of tall, wrinkly faced alien dude who was his sort of bodyguard and assistant.
Yes.
And they have a female one now who's standing behind, takes the Grand Negus staff when he needs it, and so on. So that was a nice nod to that sort of continuity.
Yeah.
And when they begin the negotiations, Rom just seems like an idiot. He's I like baseball. He says, can we put something in there that allows Ferengi to play baseball? They're like, well, sure. I'm sure we could do that.
I was trying to remember, was he a big part of that baseball DS9 episode?
He was the worst player on the team,
right?
Which was driving Cisco nuts. And Cisco kicked him off the team, and everybody's like, "Come on, man, this is supposed to be fun." And Cisco got super competitive with Captain Solok of that other ship, his old Vulcan baseball team. But it was a nice callback to that episode into Deep Space Nine.
That might be an episode that I've only seen once, because I didn't watch all of DS9 in its first run. I missed a few. And then I did my pandemic all things Star Trek viewing, and that's when I saw it. So I just didn't remember it that well. I know the episode. I know
it's a good episode. It's worth a rewatch.
Yeah.
And getting what we talking about, he's doing and Freeman pulls the Admiral aside and goes, look, they're playing stupid negotiator, smart negotiator. And the admiral is still going, no, 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 I've got this. I've got this. It'll
Yeah.
be fine. It'll be
And they
fine.
want to reopen up their agreement. And he's, well, it's open. What do you want? And Lita's just like, all right, chapter 11, subsection C, paragraph 5.
Yeah, I love that because it's like she leads in with, you know what, he's not that smart. He just let him play with some numbers, and it'll make him feel good. And then the minute they open it up, she's got exactly where they want
Yeah.
it. Which I thought was fantastic.
And they keep asking for more and more. It keeps going on.
Oh, and it gets outrageous.
It gets
And
outrageous.
You are right, Keith, because Freeman really knows what she's talking about.
Yes.
I mean, it just becomes increasingly clearer the longer the episode goes on. I don't know where she got her knowledge of Ferengi negotiating, but she really understands it, which is cool. I thought it was great.
Yeah, she's great because she keeps like, listen, because they're talking and they've got all these. Well, you get this, and then Rom is like, why don't we go down to my palace? It'll be a much more, historic place to sign this thing.
Right.
More photogenic. And she's like, listen, he's joking you around. You think he's going to sign, but he's changing locations and he's just delaying. It's
Right.
like, no, I've got this. And he seems getting like kind of sweaty, and his confidence is drained out. They also gave him as a gift. It was what looked like a gold bust of the admiral.
Yeah.
And then the bill, but they got the friends and family discount.
Yeah.
And yes, there it is.
Yes, there it is.
There it is. And the admiral asks Captain Freeman, says, "Do you have any latinum?"
Yeah, I love that.
So, yeah.
I got so excited about what you guys have been saying. I forgot I had all these great pictures.
Oh yeah. There's
yeah.
the,
There's the food
cheese-
tray.
yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be the D. I think
That's a D, yeah.
Yeah, good question. I love baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, we got a thumbs up here from Joe Townsell.
Oh, thank you,
Joe!
Joe. Thank you.
Joe!
Always a pleasure to
See you here.
have a brush with greatness.
Yep.
So
And I
we
think
can,
Joe.
not to. I don't know I don't remember all the details, but Joe's got a new book out, doesn't he?
I believe he does.
he?
And,
Yeah, I think he finished a new novel. So
Joe, what's the title of your book?
yeah,
Put it in the chat. So
if you're here, put it in
up.
the chat so we can talk about it.
yeah.
But yeah. No, that was obviously it was a big chunk of the purpose of the episode was about that.
Right.
But this is a big change for
Yes.
Star Trek. If you accept Lower Decks as canon,
Which I think
Yes.
officially it is.
Right.
By the way, Craig says Freeman was every engineer / technician / employee. Stop trying to explain something to a confident and clearly clueless manager. Yeah, that adds up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I lost my train of thought. Thank you, Craig. So easily distracted.
That's all right.
But
You were talking about
it's changing the if we in Lower Decks is canon,
right.
is sort of silly as it might be, it is canon.
Right.
So the next, if they do another show in this universe, look, cows. God damn it. Anyway,
Squirrel. Yeah.
then the Ferengi will be members of the Federation.
Right.
And it'll be interesting to see Ferengi sort of serving on starships, and because it's interesting, despite the fact that he became the Grand Nagus, is Rom was actually a really good engineer. He was a good technical, as Nog said, he says, listen, he was kind of he was like sort of angry and embarrassed. Not that he didn't love his father. It's just that my father was in the Federation. He would be the chief engineer on a starship.
Right. Right.
But he's stuck doing shitty jobs for his brother because of what Ferengi society's like.
Nog ended up getting into Starfleet, didn't he?
Yes.
He did.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
He really had to prove to Cisco that he was serious, because at first Cisco was like, it seems like a scam. But when he gave that speech, now he understood why he was doing it. He says, all right, because he needed to get a recommendation to get to be able to either get in or apply even.
Yeah, it's like going to West Point. You have to.
Yeah. So
Sponsored. Yeah.
it was it was a great moment. So I liked that, but it is changed. But he's also Rom is not as dumb as he's sort of made out to be, because as we find out after all this negotiations, to the point where Lee's like says to the admiral, whether in Rom's throne room, says, "Admiral, I'd like you to dance." He just like he's like shuffling back and forth, and
Freeman takes charge.
Oh,
he takes charge.
I love it because the whole they've gotten down to the point where basically the Ferengi will be able to commandeer any Starfleet vessel they wish,
whether they become Federation members or not.
Right. Right. And so and then she goes, "Oh, all right, yeah, we'll agree to that." And then she comes up with this really sort of clever solution.
First, he says, "We'll give you a $10 billion Latinum bonus, signing bonus." And at that, he's like, "Why is it suspicious?" He was like, "Well, I've just put one extra thing. You just have to bring one other planet into the Federation, become a Federation member." They're like, "What do you think? All these planets owe so many debts. It'll be the easiest thing ever." And he's like, "Sign it." And it's like, "Yeah, you're not getting anything." He says, "What do you mean?" He says, "I said you had to bring a planet. I didn't see which planet." And they looked at fine print.
And she beat the Ferengi in their own fine.
Yeah, they had to bring the Klingons into the Federation, the Kronos, and it is rule of acquisition number 8: small print leads to large risk.
Yeah,
which I thought was terrific. And he was like, they were both delighted because says, "Listen, Grand Nagus can't just, deal with people who are like rubes, in back. You had to sort of prove that you were willing to negotiate and honor our culture."
That was the thing. See, I liked that. It was that they felt they honored their culture, which I thought was cool.
And then he says, "I'll just sign the regular one without all that nonsense."
Yeah,
and
which showed that he's not as stupid as
he's not. He's very clever. Lita, I think, also has a big part of that,
probably
because she's the first secretary, and she was a very smart character. So
you want to remind everybody a little bit about her story a little bit, just in a nutshell, if you can, like.
Because she was a Dabo girl.
That's what I thought. She was a Dabo girl, right?
And the episode where Rom leads a strike of all the employees at Quark's bar, which brings the Ferengi, like, it's not the FBI, but it's sort of their financial, like, criminal. I've forgotten the acronym of any of our. Craig said, only non-Federation applicants to Starfleet Academy need a Federation officer's recommendation. That's true. True, because it's real. This is all real. So they led a strike, and the solution was that Quark would acquiesce and they would go back to work, but they would never speak of it. Like, the whole thing was like it was a secret deal, because otherwise, if he acquiesced to their demands as a union, he would have had all his his license to do business revoked.
Right.
But she was like, Rom had a big crush on her for a long time, and he was too shy to say anything. And she was clearly, very attracted to him. And there was an episode where the man who created the holographic doctor on Voyager was going to make Julian Bashir the next emergency medical, the template for that.
Right.
And he came on board, and he was very taken with Lita. I keep saying Leela.
Right.
Lita. And he was basically like, well, "You should come back. You're very smart." It's like, I know somebody who, could, he was arranging her to get a job as a manager of a restaurant, like a very like popular restaurant on another planet. And he was basically like very taken with her. And she was like, basically the whole episode was sort of like the Rainmaker. She's turned into Rom. You're like, "Is there any reason why I shouldn't go?" And he's like, and he's paralyzed with fear and insecurity. But he finally tells her how he feels, and she stays. And I don't trying to remember whether they got married on the show. Do either of you guys
I
remember?
think they did get married on the show.
They got married on the show, and there was, of course, conflict with that because, Ferengi, Rom's first wife basically took him from anything because he signed away all his business interests, which was a big disgrace as a Ferengi. So, yeah, I like this episode. I like the idea of the Ferengi being part of the Federation, and I like the way they handled it. They, maybe we've moved from bad admirals to dumb admirals.
There's one little point I wanted to bring up, which is why I like this particular arc so well.
Okay.
This story, this story so well. And it was just a little detail right at the end. One, Freeman does her fantastic, trick and basically swindles the Ferengi, just like a good Ferengi, and Rom and Lita are so happy with that, and then they end up doing blah blah blah. When that little story ends, the admiral, basically thanks Freeman,
right,
and says, and this is one of the little differences you might see between most comedies where there's an upper decks, and this show, a lot of managers as portrayed in comedies will just take the credit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And this admiral goes, I'll make sure the higher ups knows how good a job you did.
I will mention your acuity to Starfleet Command, which is a nice word, a nice use of the word acuity.
Yeah, yeah.
And I liked that little bit right there because that's one of the things that's different about this show versus a lot of other comedies that you see. Which,
right. I do like that. And the admiral, he wasn't so much dumb as just, I would say, way overconfident.
Sure.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's the last, before we get to the last story, which is I don't know, it's not the most important, but it was one of the I enjoyed all the stories.
Yeah.
But the cold open showed a Ferengi ship, and they're all annoyed because they can't sell weapons anymore because Rom says long-term profit is in hospitality.
Yes.
And one of the Ferengi's like, I want to be rich now.
Yeah.
And they encounter the mystery ship that's been popping up all episode.
Right.
And apparently he made a deal with them because they were like, oh, the ship's showing up. He's right on schedule. He's like very, like almost like old school Ferengi. And,
right.
The captain sort of knows you're up. I know you're up to something. I only hired you as a favor to, my cousin's boyfriend or something like that.
Yeah.
But they all get, away. So we've seen a Klingon, a Romulan, an Orion, now a Ferengi ship being, destroyed.
Destroyed or swept away somewhere.
Yeah.
And the more I see these things, Leo, the more I think your theory about this being a Section 31 op is somehow true. I mean, I still haven't quite figured out. I mean, one, it does appear to be driving the Ferengi into the Federation, which sounds like a thing.
Yeah.
A nice kind of op that Section 31 would do.
Right.
I think you're pointing out in the very first time we see this, when the first one was the Romulans, I think.
Klingons.
Klingons. They scan it and they say there's only one life form aboard. I think if it's only one life form, it's got to be Boimler clone. I think you are. I think you're right, and I'm just waiting to see if I can figure out what it is. But the more I see this, and the more the Federation is not a target,
it's
the
true.
more likely I think it is.
And I also want to jump in and also mention that it does increasingly look like people are being beamed off in some fashion rather than killed. The ships are destroyed, but there's this strange swooshing, effect with the people that are on.
Yeah, and we never see any bodies either floating in space.
Right.
We just see debris. I'm curious. The ship looks a little Federation-ish, not exactly in its configuration, but it's white. So that white, gray, blue sort of colors that we generally see in Federation ships. It looks like some sort of experimental craft. So I'm curious to see where I doubt that I if they don't. Uh, yeah, Craig agrees that beam is not just destroying ships; it's also transporting the crews from the destroyed ships.
Yeah.
Yeah, it, there's a lot of questions left answering. I hope they do not leave it like, you know, too is too much of a cliffhanger. I'm not saying I want it all resolved, but I want to
Right.
know more. I don't
Right.
want I want to be given some information
Right.
before the end of the season, even if the story that arc is not resolved itself.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll say this, and we'll talk after the show. I don't want to be Ahsoka.
No, uh,
Yeah. For people,
yeah, no, I totally concur.
yeah. So, anyway,
Now we have
oh,
Mariner.
by the way, I don't know why it's not showing up here on my control panel, but on my phone it tells me that Andy McCann gave us a thumbs up as well. Your
Thank
buddy.
you, Andy
Thank you,
McCann.
Andy.
That's a buddy of Leo's. So at any rate, I don't know. So let's see. We're at 46 minutes. What else we got on this?
We have Rutherford and attendees story.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it was. I will say, Keith, I can see why maybe it didn't resonate as much for you, not just because of the specific reason you gave about not wanting to see a platonic friendship have to get turned into something else, even if it's briefly. But it was, as a result of that, very much a sitcom gag.
And I don't mind that. I
Yeah.
don't mind that. It just because as much as I am praising Lower Decks for tweaking the sitcom format a little bit, it is still a sitcom, so I expect sitcom gags to happen.
Right.
And I just, and it's just, and I get it. But like Leo was saying earlier, there's there are basically Tendi Rutherford shippers out there, and I can get it.
Yeah.
They, for cartoon people, they make a cute couple.
Right. Yeah.
I do. Well, it's interesting because I mean, there's a lot of show. A lot of people thought both Cheers and Moonlighting got worse once the two main protagonists sort of hooked up.
Once the sexual tension disappeared.
The sexual tension. But it's interesting that they've always been good friends. Like it felt like almost not immediately from the start because she came on the ship and she didn't know anybody.
Right.
But they very quickly became very fast friends.
Yeah.
And I think they are attracted to each other, but then maybe they're worried about ruining their friendship because at the end, because we'll go over what happened before, but they're like, oh, we don't have any chemistry there, but they clearly are so in lockstep, so in sync with each other, and they both crawl into this little
Jeffrey's tube.
It's not a Jeffrey's tube, but some sort of little crawl space on the ship, and they're in a weirdly thing like he picks her up in his arms, guides her in, climbs in afterwards, and their legs are tangled up, and it's like if you walked in and saw that, I'd be like, are those people fucking in there? Chris, are you okay? I think I think an ion storm hit Delaware. I hope you can come back. But I think they might eventually become involved, but they don't necessarily have to be involved right now.
And maybe eventually, and I will, sigh and grin and bear when that happens. I will say I don't think there has been any sexual chemistry until the moment the two of them saw each other all dressed up.
Yeah, because they're both like, she's, oh, you look so handsome, and you look, you didn't say devastating or ravaging, but something along those lines, and they automatically just felt really. Oh, Chris can sign back in.
The
always happens
monkeys
towards
are
the
in
end of the
charge
episode.
again.
I hope that ship didn't get him. But let's talk a little bit while we're waiting for Chris about their whole thing. Yeah, so there he's putting up. He can still hear us. He's putting up pictures. They think it's a real gag to be pretending they're in
Right.
love and they're laughing and okay, darling, honey, let's go back, ha 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 ha. But when they're standing in line for the hotel, they're like suddenly they're talking about something. It feels kind of almost too real, and they're like, let's go back to the ship. And then it's like they get to the front of the line. And it's like, oh, here are our Federation lovebirds. Here you go. And they,
That's what I was trying to put
Yeah.
up when I got blown out of the
yeah,
Yeah.
but it was,
The head monkey's back.
but
Yeah.
there was a lot of funny gags, and
Yeah.
they go to it was, and let me check my notes to make sure I'm saying it right. It was Quark Starfleet Experience Bar and Grill. And the maitre d was dressed like Spock, including having eyebrows drawn on his ridges, and she's all those old velour uniforms that used to catch on fire so easily, which is something I don't know if that's true, but it's a funny bit.
Well, it did make me, even though I never went, it did make me think of the Star Trek experience in Las Vegas.
Yeah, it definitely had that vibe to it.
Yeah.
And so they had to eat. And you find out they're being followed around by Parth, who is their concierge. Sort of
I love that.
By the way, the title Parth Ferengi'S Heart Place is a play on the show Darth Marenghi's Dark Place, which you can see, I think, still on Amazon Prime. It was a really surreal British sort of sitcom, sort of making fun of supernatural stories and hospital dramas and all sorts of odd stuff. And it has Matt Berry in it, if you're a fan of What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh yeah, sure.
Matt Berry, who has maybe the best voice in creation.
Yes.
So I would sell both of you to the Orions to be able to have Matt Berry's voice.
Didn't we? This means nothing to anybody watching this show, but didn't we game with somebody who wanted their character to sound like him, or was it you?
I don't know, but
all right, I thought we did.
It's entirely possible because who wouldn't want to sound like Matt Berry?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Also, incredibly funny actor. So he's also on the IT crowd. If you in the later seasons,
yes.
Now that I've done not that I get a one farthing or shilling from Matt Berry to promote his career, but for those who care. But I love their awkwardness, and they're obviously attracted to each other.
Obviously.
But they had to the Ferengi definitely make a spectacle out of everything because their dinner was erotic chocolate statues of each other that they had to eat, and afterwards they had to say a compliment about each other. It says, and these chairs detect lies, so be sincere.
Yeah. Well, and that was the thing, because they were about ready to just give up the ghost and say, hey, you know what, we're really not a couple. And then somebody else gets arrested
for pretending to be a couple to get the discount. They were sentenced to a life sentence of underwater sulfur mines. Apparently, it's one of the greatest crimes you can commit on Ferenginar.
Lie to get a discount.
And they get through that, and they were like, I think your hair is really neat. She says, you have good hair too. And they're like, now you get to consummate your marriage. And they're like, ah! And they're like, oh, not in front of us. And they wheel out what looks like sort of a repurposed, like old school shuttle. There's like, just in there so we can hear you.
Right.
And they're like, and then Migliamo, the ship's counselor, comes in, and he sees them and says, "Oh, they are the most, the closest platonic friends on our ship," and they call them security or wearing TNG security outfits.
Yeah.
And they have to like they say that they could only they're both in love with Migliamo, and they know. This is why you're trying to ruin our marriage. It's like you come in here to wreck things. It's like I want a divorce.
It's Tendi that comes up with that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And comes up with this love triangle thing to get them out of it. Yeah.
Says, you love me, and he's so delighted by this.
Yeah.
And he's so mad. They get away with it, and Parth is like, all right, release them. And they say, we're gonna go back to the ship and not talk to each other. They like trot off, and he's like, wow, I had no idea. And they sit him down and he says, "Would you like the homewrecker package?" He's like, "Oh yes."
Yeah, yeah.
Love that. Love that. That's
I love
amazing. That was
I have
outstanding.
no idea what's in the homewrecker package, but I'd be very curious to see. Um, there was also in the background the arch from the Guardian on the Guardian from City on the Edge of Forever.
Right, right.
Was one of their sort of background decorations in the Federation Bar and
Yeah.
Grill.
Yeah.
I'm sure I missed other stuff, but yeah, that they are
I'm
just
absolutely sure because I didn't get a chance to watch it twice, but I'm sure in that opening pan of all the neon signs,
yeah.
there has to be some neat, nifty little stuff tucked
Yeah,
in.
there's
I'm
gotta
sure,
be.
but also it turns out as Mariner was with her friend at the library, February library, there were like the signs out saying books, books, books. Where
Yeah,
like in Vegas it would be go nudes, nudes, nudes.
yeah, girls, girls, girls.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's they're joking. She's like, "Oh, this is how hardcore Ferengi libraries are." And his friend is like, "Yeah, nobody's read a book in here in like 1,000 years."
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah.
so many little notes like that. Yeah, I, I, I really enjoyed this episode, and Ferengi, I'm always a little iffy about Ferengi because while it is a sort of a parody of like capitalism gone
Amok.
wild.
Right.
Sometimes it's a little like, oh my god, sometimes it like hits a little too close to home.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
But I thought they did a great job.
yeah,
I love the fact that they got the original actors to play Nog and Ram and Lita.
Yeah.
I think they made it interesting and funny. I love that Boimler just ends up sitting there in his underpants, binge watching Ferengi.
Big wide eyes staring at. Yeah,
All pale,
bloodshot.
white
yeah,
skinned.
pale,
Yeah,
right, yeah,
drinking
Yeah.
Sluggo cola, and because when they get back, Ransom's like, "Oh, what happened to Boimler?" He's well, I think he calls him and he says, "Oh, I just got sidetracked," and he's like, "Well, good for you. You didn't stick to your plan. You decided to go outside your box, and I'm really proud of you for that. But I should tell you, I've called the cops, and they're going to eject you from the hotel. Just go limp." And this
Yeah.
guy busts in the room with one of those electrical whips, which we saw in their very
in
first
TOS,
appearance
I
on
mean, in
TNT.
TNT, yeah.
And we
Yeah,
get the Boimler
again.
scream. And Manson's like, "I really like that, Lieutenant." And he throws back a Sluggo cola.
Yeah,
Which apparently has made its way onto the Ceritos.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I thought it was great.
It was
So-
fantastic. It was good. It was
So
good.
here we are, guys. 4 episodes left.
Yeah.
Is it 3 or 4? Is this 6?
Well, this is 6.
So we have 4 left.
Yeah.
We have 4 left. Yeah.
I had a micro panic attack when you said
Yeah.
Um, as much as I love having seen these episodes, the fact that it's only 10 episodes
I know.
long, I'm always like a little like when you get the back end, you're kind of
Oh,
like,
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
I was that way with Strange New Worlds.
same,
so.
yeah. But
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, regarding the future, a couple of things. I think, well, we know for sure that, I think I have read that they are definitely working on season 5. And I think I read somewhere that the showrunner is not sure if there's going to be a season 6.
that's
Okay.
true. So
I'm personally even unsure if there's going to end up being a season 5 because I'm not sure. I don't know what's going on with Paramount. You know,
here's the,
Yeah.
the writer's strike is over, and I think the actors may be close to a settlement.
Right.
But I will say that if you're watching, CBS is very soon is going to start airing Yellowstone, which was I think used to be on Paramount Plus.
Right.
And because so many of these networks, the 3 major networks, and even like Fox, I guess Fox is a major network now. It still feels like the new kid, even though they've been around.
Yeah.
Like since the 80s. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
I'm like the kid. He's 70 years old. Yeah, he's the kid. But these networks are all desperate for content.
Either 4 episodes left or 1 million left. 1 million orcs.
Yes,
That's an inside joke.
that's a little inside the dungeon.
Yeah.
So If you really want to know, email us.
Yeah, or
Check
join
it
the Patreon, and we'll
Yeah.
do a bit about it. Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be worth it to you.
I know.
Anyway,
We'll learn about something that happened to us at the end of high school.
yeah. But it feels like a lot of places are looking for content, and obviously a lot of shows, like an animated show, is completed a long time before it airs. Like it takes about a
Right.
year between
Right.
the writing of the episode and it being a finished product.
Right.
So I'm sure there's animation sort of, this was ready to lock and load, but if
Yeah, well, so was Prodigy. I don't want to bring up
and
that.
that's what's
I'm
got me
sure they must be
concerned.
kicking themselves because they had a whole,
Yeah,
they had
they
like,
had the whole season ready to go, and they could be airing that next.
I mean, I don't know if they're going to go back or what's going to happen. I definitely would like to see a second season of Prodigy. I quite enjoyed that.
Oh God,
especially
I love Prodigy.
The back half really picked up speed. I mean, I enjoyed the first half, but the back half, they accelerated the storyline, so it wasn't going to be one of these like, well, they're stuck in the Delta Quadrant forever kind of things.
Right.
Right.
They actually moved the narrative forward, which is something.
Yeah.
And that season finale of Prodigy was one of the best season finales ever.
It was a very good one.
In all, not just in Trek, but it's one of the best season finales I have ever seen. They wrapped up the season story arcs in a satisfying way.
Yeah.
An extremely satisfying way, and they set up the next season as well.
Yeah.
I don't think you can get much better than that.
Nope.
No, that's
So,
true. It's true. Hey, Sean Fuller says, "Great color on the shirt, brother. Looks good on screen." I'm assuming since I'm the only one in color, you're talking about me, because everybody else is wearing black. But could be you guys. Black, black
slimming.
orange.
But you have a slight Star Trek vibe because you have a red shirt and
Yes,
like a little
exactly.
insignia.
Hey, Sean, I remember the first time I wore a red Star Trek shirt, and all the comments going down in the beginning were, "Please be careful," that I was going to die by the end of the episode. But yeah,
this was listen. I have no complaints about this episode, other than
me either.
I want more. And it's not really. Sean Fuller says very 80s prep.
Yeah. We had all.
Especially if you pop the collar, that would be.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's true. It's not popped. Oh my God, I've gotten old. There we go.
Just need some Ray-Bans on.
I do. My Wayfarers are in the other room. I can't. Yeah, I'm sorry. But yeah, I thought this was a lot of fun.
It was.
So, season's getting it for me. I'm more enjoyable with every episode, so that's good.
Yeah,
can't ask for better than that.
It is interesting because we've seen kind of the most character growth in this season. Like
Right.
I think it's been, but like all the stuff that's been happening, there've been like incremental sort of changes in the characters. But now it's really they're like stepping over the threshold. Now they're all Lieutenant JDs.
Well, I am okay. So I'm very curious to see the resolution of this mystery ship thing.
Yes,
I'd like to see how although I think we're getting some pretty decent development, but it might be interesting to see the Mariner thing resolved a little bit more, maybe. I don't know. What do you think?
I think she's
really
on her way.
Where I don't
Because
know.
she finally had to admit, like she was like, I'm a badass rebel, plays by my own rules. And that's like, everybody's like, you're just fucking around, Mariner, because her identity was always being like the rebel because she felt like I would get promoted and demoted and promoted. And it's like nobody believed in me, and now people are believing me, and I don't know how to react. It's like,
right,
like like you've adopted a stray pet who it was like, I like being, I like it when you pet me, but it's like, and it's going to take a little while for her to sort of acclimate to people believing in her.
Right.
So,
all right, guys. Unless you have anything groundbreaking left to say, we are over the hour.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Keith, any last thoughts?
Yeah.
Give me more.
Yeah.
Give me more.
Yeah.
I want more.
Yeah, I think you kind of blew your character development load there, Keith. So
I
you
did.
already got that.
I did.
You did. Yeah, you got that in there. All righty, folks. We will be back next week. Live long and prosper. We only had minor Wi-Fi problems this week, so yay us!
Yay!
Hopefully, I'll get that figured out. I might have to climb into the attic or something. I don't know why all of a sudden it's a problem, but after what did I say, 85 shows or something like that,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, I don't know. But at any rate, live long and prosper, folks. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, and we will see you back next week at this same time to see episode 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah.
So, have a great week, everybody.